has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michelle Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 309, Plan B. Decide it before you need it. Hi, my Veg Your Besties. It's Michelle. Welcome to August. I think this is supposed to go out the first Tuesday in August, and this year is officially flying. How many people have said that? How many people have said that by now? Oh my gosh, this year is flying. It's more than half done. School, back to school is in about 3 or 4 weeks, or in the case of my Florida grandchildren, coming right up. Yeah, it's August 4th, and I thought we'd talk about a few things today that will help us get back into those day-tight compartments that I think it's good to mostly live in, where we are creating our days with some intentionality, and they're not just slipping away. And it reminds me of that Marcus Aurelius quote. I know I haven't mentioned the Stoics lately, and I know some of you really miss it, and some of you are like, oh my gosh, is she getting back to that? No! But Marcus Aurelius, the quote I have here is, you have to assemble your life yourself, action by action. You have to assemble your life yourself, action by action. And I think what that means in terms of today's podcast is what you do most of the time matters more than what you do either on your very best days or on your very worst days. So having that plan is what I want to talk about. Having that plan for the days that you mess up, that someone else messes up. This is one of the most important things that I think we need when we're doing anything, really. And how you go vegan is basically how you do everything, whether you're starting a business or training for a 5K or losing weight or writing a book or learning a language or cutting down on alcohol or junk food or, finally strength training because your doctor said the words bone density, or whether you're decluttering the house you've lived in for 30 years or learning a language, anything, you have most of your life aimed at new goals with one plan. What you've probably done most every single time you've ever had a new goal is you've got the plan, the one plan, plan A. Plan A, right? Which only requires a little thing from you. It just requires perfection and everything else going perfectly too. And then as soon as things fall apart, and spoiler alert, things always do fall apart. Sometimes even just falling apart the littlest bit, you don't know what to do. Because when it falls apart, you don't know what to do because you don't have a plan B. You've got plan A because you're thinking all or nothing. You're thinking that you're either doing it just right, perfectly, following plan A, or you're doing nothing, not even thinking about it, punting. So I think we really, really, really need to have a plan B, maybe even depending on what we learn from our plan B. Maybe we really need a plan C and D and R, maybe. Because the things you do most of the time he's a mentor. He doesn't know he's my mentor. Sid Garza-Hillman, one of my earliest guests and one of my favorite podcasters. Sid Garza-Hillman calls that MOTT, M-O-T-T, most of the time. Most of what you reliably do and accomplish and do not stress too much over, and people can count on you for, that is MOTT, M-O-T-T. You might not be perfect on those things either, but think about your own MOTT list. You brush your teeth, maybe you feed the cat before you feed yourself, you show up when you say you'll show up, you get to work, you take your medications, you water the plants, you call your mom or your daughter, or you return emails, you pay bills. Nobody hands you a cookie or a gold star for any of it. And nobody needs to, because it's just what you do most of the time. Even though sometimes it doesn't get done, most of the time you do it with no problem. So the difference is when you don't, maybe something like you don't brush your teeth for 12 hours or 24. I bet that's happened to some of you. You don't just say, brushing teeth. Well, I guess that ship sailed. Your morning walk doesn't get rained out on a Tuesday and decide, you know what, I'm just not a walker. I never was. Who was I kidding? You don't forget to answer an email or forget to pay a bill and then decide, you know what, I'm just not going to pay bills anymore or send emails. Or maybe you don't read anything too edifying, or you don't declutter your garage or whatever. You don't just go, oh, gosh, I forgot to do that. Forget about it. No, you come back to it soon, later that day, maybe the next day. That's MOTT. That's MOTT, most of the time. And nobody has to teach you that. You just do that because for those things, you don't have an all or nothing switch attached to it. And by the way, that spiral, when you do install that switch, that all or nothing switch, it has a name. It has a name. Some of you like this behavioral science stuff that I include sometimes. Researchers who study relapse call it the abstinence violation effect. Okay, I mean, we could file that under duh, right? But the finding, and I want you to hear about this, the thing that derails people is it's not slipping up. It's not the mistake. It's not the neglect or the not paying attention. It's the story that we tell ourselves about the slip. I blew it. I have no willpower. I'm just not the kind of person who can do this. People are expecting too much from me. I don't have the support. That's the part that turns one bite of cheese into a forget it. That's the casual name for it in the research. I'm not kidding. Also called the what the HE double hockey sticks effect. What the HE double hockey sticks effect. So this, I have grandchildren who listen to this. Okay, sometimes not every week, but I try to be mindful about the words that come out of my mouth. So that's what they call that spiral that happens after a mistake in the literature. And that's not a character flaw that you have or something about your, being neurotypical or neurospicy. It's just a documented, predictable glitch in human thinking. And what's the documented fix? It's having already decided what a slip means and what you're going to do next. And that's exactly what I mean when I talk about having a plan B. I don't think anyone should have a plan A without a plan B, because we certainly need more than just plan A. Plan A meaning the most efficient, most clear, organized way towards your goal, because you cannot operate at perfection, at optimum all the time. Not gonna happen. So you can still get more and more accomplished at, for example, limiting or eliminating the consumption of animal products, or at anything else, even if you get just a little bit better. And once you start noticing that you are working against yourself, making things harder than they need to be, giving yourself extra rules that you might not be able to keep up with all the time, we'll start to realize we have different settings with different gears for different situations. It's actually really, really useful, really, really helpful, and it changes the whole process, because now you're not trying to do the impossible today and every day, which is trying to be perfect today and every day, because it's really hard enough to be perfect for even a little while. And guess what? It really does help having a plan B or C or D, because at first it sounds just like an intellectual exercise, a concept, but then you start to figure out what works best for you, but only if you're actually practicing it in real life. So again, if you're going to try and be vegan, maybe plan A is no animal products in any form ever, okay, or no animal products in any food or beverage, okay. And notice, in any form ever is a much bigger plan A than a lot of people realize, because it is food, but it might also be handbags and car interiors and sweaters and down comforters or not down comforters, and cosmetics that have been tested on animals, collagen in face cream. So anyway, if your plan A is everything at once, you've basically guaranteed yourself a mess up by, tomorrow morning, because it's a lot. And that's fine if you also have a plan B. So plan A, that's what I want to do. Great. I'm applauding you. I'm all for it. But what if you can't stick to it 100%? Maybe you're traveling and the only thing at the airport gate at 9 p.m. when your flight has not taken off yet is a yogurt parfait and a cheese sandwich. You don't have to eat it, but if you do eat it, do you want to think about what your plan B is? If you are thinking about it, or if you're in the hospital or caring for someone at their house, or if your daughter-in-law made you dinner and you are not about to, well, at least in this part of your relationship, you're not ready to interrogate her about the broth. Or if you ate something you didn't really realize was an animal product, like whey or honey, or maybe it's the bread, or it was the granola bar, or it was the veggie soup, but actually it's been made with chicken stock. It happens. All of these things can happen to lifetime vegans, 20-year vegans, veteran vegans. One of these will happen to you. And it's not over. Because all of us have to have some sort of plan B. Plan B could be, well, okay, but I am not going to eat any animal products at the next meal, or even at this meal, I'm going to actively avoid what I just suddenly realized contained animal products, or I'm going to minimize the amount, or I'm just going to not worry about it right now and worry about it at the next opportunity when I have control. All of those are possible plan Bs. Because what is something that is better than nothing? What is plan B or C? What something can I accomplish, do, protect myself with that is better than nothing? So maybe plan B is granola bar in your pocket that you know is reliably plant-based no matter what. Maybe it's having food in the freezer that can always be defrosted no matter what happens to the day. Or if you've had to truncate your dinner out because all they had was romaine salad with no dressing and French fries. Maybe plan C is even smaller. Maybe there's just a fruit or vegetable on your plate at every meal today. That's it. That's the whole plan because nothing else worked. I'm pretty sure that if you graduated from high school or college or with any sort of certification or license or diploma, you probably did not get that done by being perfect every day. And one of the main reasons that remote learning is so challenging, it's because for all their faults, organized educational environments understand that progress is not linear or perfect or unbroken. Failure and avoidance and overwhelm are part of the process of education, and educators know it. And it's part of their job to help you, support you, to try and get you back into the swim of the process as soon as possible. Because there's this infinite gradient that's between all and nothing. And it's called something, right? We've talked about it here many times, but it's the thing I think I need to repeat more than any other. And of course, all of it is relative to whatever your philosophy is, whatever it is you want to do, whatever is essential to you. But vegan ideals are not supported or enhanced by you giving up because you haven't developed all your vegan muscles or strategies or tactics yet, right? There are billions and billions. There are infinite points between 0 and 1. A whole lot of stuff in between all and nothing. So obviously I have my goal. You have your goal. The me I would prefer to be, the person who behaves in a way that I would aspire to behave. Okay, that's plan A. Okay. But what if you drop the ball, you forget, you fall off the wagon, pick your metaphor. It's starting to think in that gray space of non-perfection and use your brain in advance to make the best, most creative or powerful solution to that problem. And that's what I think of having plan B, a plan for when you mess up. And if you'd really trust me on this, I'd love that because I know what a lot of you say. You say, if I can cheat, Michelle, won't I just cheat? Won't I just slide through with the easiest, with plan W or plan Y? So I know maybe you will. But here's what the research says. As far as I've read, it's the opposite. And this is true in my real life coaching experience. It's the opposite of what you'd expect. A lot of nutrition scientists have distinguished between rigid restraint, all or nothing, forbidden foods, perfect or ruined, and flexible restraint, which is why we're building here that plan B. Gears, gradients. Study after study finds that rigid people are the ones who overeat more, quit more. The flexible people, the ones who allow themselves an off-plan bite, or just carry on when they've made a mistake, these are the ones still doing it years later. The rigidity. The rigidity is not what's protecting you from the mistakes. The rigidity is what's, in many cases, causing the backsliding. So in my opinion, no, building a plan B is not going soft. It's not cheating. It's doing what successful people actually do. And yes, there are some days that you might decide to take your eyes off the ball. But the point of plan W or Y or even Z is that it's got a little more stretch in the direction you want. It's pointing you a little closer to your goal instead of giving up on your goal. And if you get good at this, if you trust the process, You start recognizing what the typical obstacle is, what the typical moment is when those wheels come off the bus, or pick your own favorite metaphor. What do I typically do when I mess up? Do I give up? Or is there something I can still do? And it will be different for each person, for each goal, for each place that we are at. And that's one of the great things about coaching is between you and your coach, if it was me, we can work out those plan Bs. We can put things in place. We can support plan A with plan B or R or plan Z. Because most people's mess ups, most people's backsliding, they have a pattern to them. So maybe it's after work, very often after work, after a busy day. Maybe it's 4 p.m. standing at the kitchen counter. Maybe it's Sunday night when everybody's getting tense about Monday morning, being ready for Monday morning. Maybe it's when the grandkids visit and suddenly there's mac and cheese and leftover chicken nuggets in the kitchen that somebody brought. Maybe it's book club where wines get refilled and brie cheese appears. Maybe it's cooking for a husband who has very little interest in going vegan. And so let's just say your goal is to not eat any nibbles off a meat and cheese charcuterie board at your mother-in-law's after bridge. So yes, the first goal is to not eat any nibbles off a meat and cheese charcuterie board at your mother-in-law's after bridge. Okay, that's clear. That's the first goal. But plan B might be, if I catch myself having grabbed something, I give myself a break. I have one. Or I only eat the cheese. I never eat the meat or the egg. The choice is yours on that. But then maybe you go and you get an apple or olives. And I mentioned the charcuterie board because a client recently, a recent client has been struggling with that lately. And then bit by bit, as she started giving herself a little bit of grace about it, she started bringing in her own mini board, which was really simple things. Jarred marinated artichokes and hummus, some crackers and grapes, a handful of nuts sometimes, whatever the grocery store or the olive bar had for her that week. Tops 10 minutes of assembly, no recipe. And actually, it encouraged the woman who brought the meat and cheese board to start adding more veggies and fruit to her board. Did her bridge companions become vegan? Okay, decidedly no, at least not yet, from what I've heard. But they no longer think of adding veggies and fruit and nuts as weird or unsatisfying, and they've started to understand what my client does eat. So notice what happens. Her plan A wasn't, don't ever touch the charcuterie board, not even once, willpower, white knuckles, 4 hands of bridge, never making a mistake, never being unconscious and grabbing something. No. Her plan C turned out to be, add something you do want to the table. And that's not a downgrade from plan A. I think it's a better plan than plan A. And she only found it because she stayed in the game long enough to look for another tactic. So as you know by now, I think that how you go vegan is how you do everything. So please notice everything that isn't happening the way you think you want it to or the way you think it should. Because that gap between knowing and doing is not the problem. It's an illustration. It's an illustration of where the obstacles are for you, an illustration of what you have muscles and tactics and strategies for right now, as well as what you don't have capabilities for right now. And wouldn't that make more sense? Because what are you expecting? That at some point in your life, you're going to get to this situation where you can just always be in one gear of perfection. You're always going to have it just perfect, always the right choice, always 100% clear information, the best information. honestly, when has that ever happened? Who have you ever seen have that happen? Some people do have maybe more help to make it happen, but life doesn't work that way. So why live in the fairy tale that it's possible? Instead, let's start planning for your reality. And your reality will be different than somebody else's reality. My reality is different from the reality I had 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Look at your past, understand how cravings and impulses can just hit us sometimes. Sometimes our habits are still a little bit too entrenched to break them fully 100% of the time right away. So when we recognize how we can make mistakes and still be on track, that's the secret of the game, right? Because when you start to realize you can make mistakes and still succeed, you are still moving in a vegan direction or moving in a direction of whatever goal you've got, it takes so much pressure off. And for the first time in your life, it can really start to feel possible. Not just this is a best case scenario goal. Being perfect forever does not feel possible. And if you try and follow that perfection path, that's the only rule you have for yourself. Eventually, the stress of it and the mistakes that just happen, well, you start to feel lost. So I think the easiest way, the simplest way, is to just have a few alternative plans there, decided ahead of time, especially when you made a mistake, especially when someone you've counted on has kind of moved you in the wrong direction, hasn't showed up with the options that you expected. And when you build these other plans, these alternative plans around your most common mistakes, each time you do that, it starts to give you more options. That's what we're looking for, right? To get a little bit better over time, not to give up. Of course, we want to hit the grand slam. Yes, we want to have our success, of course. But if we can't do that, let's have a plan B that is still moving us in the direction we want. And when plan B is still a little optimistic, yes, you can still have a plan C, which is way better than having no plan at all. And that, kids, is how we all keep moving forward in multiple ways. And actually, that is faster than being perfect, because guess what? You're not perfect. Even if it sounds like it will be the kind of slowest way to the point you're aiming for, you'll know that you're always going to be moving forward. It's not a secret, but it is the secret of getting to a place where things are more or less effortless most of the time. MOTT, most of the time. And that's the secret to getting the results I think you want. And if you want some support in this process, you always know where to find me, because I'm here to help you veg your best.
Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Veg Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.